morning and welcome to Morning Moments. Thank you for joining us today, whatever platform you're watching and listening to this on. I have today a producer, and he's an executive for the music industry for years. And it's my privilege to bring Dan Posthuma to Morning Moments. Welcome, Dan, to Morning Moments.
Thank you, Andy. It's great talking to you.
Well, let's find out a little bit about what's going on with you when I ask you the question, what do you do and why do you do it?
Music has always been a motivating force for me. I grew up in a very musical family. My father was a surgeon, but he loved music as much as he did his work. Grew up playing violins and with my sisters and things like that. I was always drawn to the power of music and how God uses it to open us up to worship and fellowship. So I was in a Youth for Christ group when I was growing up. Grew up in Cadillac, Michigan, up north, up there. You know where that is? Yeah.
Yes, I'm from Michigan.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So I played bass in this group, and I went to a school in Arkansas, John Brown University. They had a college group called the Sound Generation back in the 70s. And it was a pretty hip group, brass and singers and a good rhythm section. And I fell in love with just the power of a song to stir an audience. And my path out of college was to go to work for the Gaithers, Bill and Gloria Gaither up in Indiana. Didn't know anything about gospel music, honestly. I grew up in Michigan. I was into rock and classical music, but seeing the power of those songs galvanize the body of Christ, it was an incredible experience. So I played bass for them, ended up being their music director for quite some time. My wife, Sarah, sang back up on the road. After that, moved to Nashville, worked with Amy Grant, was her music director for a while. And that started a career in contemporary Christian music as an independent producer, and then eventually the head of A&R for Myrrh Records, which is one of the labels that Word Record owns, with Amy and Michael Dub and Russ Taff and Phil Keaggy, a bunch of other people. So music has always been a part of my profession and a part of my love for God. And so this particular opportunity for this show we're talking about here, it's called The Confession, came as a result of my producing some concerts in a little town, northern Indiana, called Shipshewana. It's up there by Fort Wayne in that area, and it's an Amish tourist town. Chonda Pierce, an artist I'd worked with at Word, I'd produced a bunch of stuff for her, introduced me to this gentleman, Mel Rigsecker, very smart guy, grew up Amish, only 8th grade education, but knows how to make things work. And he started this restaurant in Shipshewana called Blue Gate Restaurant. Take care of the tourists that were interested in Amish ethos, how they approach life, and wanted to visit their locations. So all these people started to come to this area, and he wanted me to produce some concerts for him. So I brought up some of the people that I had worked with in the past, Pat Boone and Michael W. and some other people, and we started doing concerts. But as my wife and I were going up there, and it's a beautiful small town, 600 people, more horse and buggies than cars, but just tranquil. And people are so attracted to the simplicity, which is obviously a part of how Amish approach life. And anyhow, so we were spending more time in Shipshewana, and Mel told me about a genre of fiction I knew nothing about called Amish romance. Are you familiar with that at all?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had an Amish author on.
I wasn't, but I was intrigued by it. So I read a bunch of these books, and I found a story that I fell in love with. It was written by Beverly Lewis, who's the queen of this genre. She sold 25 million books or something like that. Very beautiful stories that reflect the the emphasis of Amish living. Today's culture is so preoccupied with the individual. Amish is all about family and community, and that makes for some pretty interesting storytelling as well. So found the story called The Confession. I called her up, Beverly Lewis. I said, "Ma'am, you don't know me. I've produced a lot of concerts, a lot of albums, never produced a musical. Don't have any idea how to do that. But I love this story, and I think that the visitors to Shipshewana will be intrigued by an Amish story told with music." So got some friends of mine, a guy named Wally Nason, who's a wonderful director and composer. There wasn't much humor in these books, and I wanted humor in our stories, so I worked with a woman by the name of Martha Bolton, who I'd worked with out in LA. She's a comedy writer. She was Bob Hope's head writer for many, many years. Very funny, strong Christian lady. She moved to Nashville about the same time as Sarah and I did, her and her husband, and asked her to write the script. So we put this story together and put it on stage. This is back in 2010, and people loved it. It was just such a powerful story. The young little Amish girl whose life gets turned upside down when her fiance dies in a boating accident, and she finds out that she was adopted. Parents never told her. And she also finds out that her birth mother, the wealthy English lady, is looking for her and is dying, wants to find her before she dies. So Katie has to make a decision whether to leave the Amish community. Her father is totally against this, as you might expect, out of love for her. But she has to make a decision whether to leave her family and her community to go on search for her birth mother. And that's the story. It's Confession. There's lots of twists and turns. John Schneider, we were just talking about him. He plays this gold digger, manipulator who's trying to get the English, her birth mother's money. Chonda Pierce plays this housemaid who's is a very good friend of Laura, the birth mother, and is her spiritual guide through this journey. And it's just a fabulous story. So that's what we're doing. We cut it on the stage in Indiana last August with a big cast, about 25 people, singers and dancers. It's a Broadway kind of story, Broadway production, choreography and singing and dancing, set changes and all that. It's just, there's an Amish theme that runs through it. And it's going to be in theaters this coming Monday on President's Day. Hundreds of theaters across the country. Great opportunity for us and for the story. So that's what I've been working on lately. Andy, thanks for asking.
So you've brought it from a screenplay to a movie then, right?
The movie is actually a filming of the musical itself.
Of itself.
Like Newsies and Hamilton and some of these others that have done that. So we brought in 5 or 6 cameras into this theater with everybody on stage, and we kind of told the story that way. And the story is great, lots of twists and turns, very funny, but powerful songs too. So
is the live performance still touring, or?
We are going to do it for a 6-week run in Indiana in July of this year. We have 3 theaters, one in Indiana, one in Lancaster, Pennsylvania area. That's a heavily Amish tourist area. Another one in Sugar Creek, Ohio, it's a little south of Akron. So this is our first story, The Confession. Since then we've done 9 others. We kind of rotate these shows among those 3 theaters. This is the first one we've actually filmed and put it in movie theaters as well.
It's great to be able to see it in film, because a lot of times people can't get out to travel at these locations, and they'll be able to hear that story.
And after our premiere, which is next Monday on President's Day, it's going to be on a cable network called Up TV out of Atlanta. If you're familiar with them, great people, family friendly cable. The cable system is growing quickly, and I think it starts airing there around Easter holiday.
Okay.
So hopefully a lot of people are going to see it and
Good.
be moved by it.
Good, good. Well, I hope we whet the appetite of people to pursue it, to look at, find it. Some of you might even be in those areas where you could see the live performance of it. But please check out the release of this on Up TV and other places. It may be released and distributed to other platforms as well, and we're praying for that as well. So
I appreciate it. It's if people want tickets for this event next Monday, they can go to Confession Musical Movie, those 3 words, confessionmusicalmovie.com. And you put in your zip code and it'll tell you what theaters in your area are playing it. Go enjoy it. It's a wonderful show.
good, great. So as we close this, I want to encourage everybody who's watching this to take a few moments and pray for Dan. I always ask my audience to pray for the guest, and I want you to pray for Dan. Dan has got a lot more things on the shelf that he wants to get out, and but he needs prayer to do that. Dan needs your prayers, folks, and you need the practice. So pray that God would richly bless him in his endeavors. Dan, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in Morning Moments.
Andy, it was great to talk to you. Great to meet you, and thank you for the prayers. It was always appreciated.
All right. All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us for Morning Moments. Pass this interview on to others. Keep coming back, and may God richly bless you.